Okay, so this is my assignment 13, video number 3. For this data set, I actually went back and used the Titanic data set that we had from the beginning of the class. And we can kind of check this out here. We got just the same basic setup of our widgets. Pop this guy open. And we can just look at, oops, sorry, this one. And just looking at the columns I have, oh, geez. The columns I have selected here for the variables I use passenger class, I use aged, and I use whether they survived or not, and then sibling and spouse. So those are my inputs for variables. And okay, let me actually go back to this again. Okay, so open the scatter plot. So this is what I got going for my scatter plot right now. On the x-axis, I have age, on the y-axis I have sibling spouses. So if we look at this from a clustering standpoint, this is what we get with 4 different clusters. And I mean, it really just groups people based on their class, what class they were in, how many siblings they had, those kinds of things. But I actually found it more interesting looking at it with the coloring of survived. I think from how I have this set up, this tells a little bit better of a story in the fact that all of our ones, which are red here, are people who survived, and all the blues are people who did not survive. And the depiction that you get here is that the majority of people who did survive were people who only were there by themselves, or maybe they just had one sibling or their spouse with them. And a lot of people, once you start get to 2, 3, and higher, your percent chance of surviving this went down dramatically. And I think it makes sense in the idea that if you were a parent and you had more things, or if there were more people that you had to look after and care for and keep track of while this whole chaotic situation's going down, it's really going to divert your focus from focusing on your own survival and getting out of there alive. Whereas a lot of people who were just by themselves or had one other person, it was a lot easier to coordinate what they're doing through this chaotic time. So I actually liked looking at this. I thought it was interesting. It makes sense. Not a perspective I would have necessarily had or would have thought about, and not an angle I would have taken on this data set. So I think it was cool to look at and kind of just how they broke it up in this way. And just seeing that, yeah, people who only had to worry about themselves had a lot better chance of living. People who had family with them were in a cruel way being weighed down. And it's just the way it went. I'll remember that next time I'm on a cruise. Don't bring my family. Going by myself. But anyway, that is my last video for assignment 13. And thank you. Appreciate it.